Hey everyone, I'm so glad that I can finally start this review. I had so many technical difficulties and I did my whole makeup and everything and it took forever, just so you know. As you can see in the title, today we are going to talk about Rebel Witch, Kelly-Ann Maddox, a book that I've waited for a long time, probably even since before she started writing it. A lot of people have been waiting for a book written by her because she is well respected in the witchy community. She has put out over, I think, 600 videos on YouTube. She's, at least in my bubble, pretty well known, but I know many people don't know her. So if this is your introduction to her, she's amazing. Watch all of her videos and also let's see if you should read this book. You'll be able to tell after the review. Um, okay, who am I kidding? I'm going to recommend the book, but still I will be specific about who it is for, who it is maybe not for, what I was surprised about, what the structure of the book is, what I think might be missing, and all of that good stuff. By the way, I have not decided yet whether this top makes me look like I'm the Hulk or whether it actually looks really elegant and cool. So let's just go with elegant and cool because I'm going to wear it for this video. What better time to wear something like this than a video about Kelly-Ann Maddox, right? All right, so I'm not going to start this video by fangirling too much. I am, obviously, if anyone follows me, they know that I'm a big fan of Kelly-Ann Maddox. I did an interview with her. She was one of the main reasons that I actually started my channel in 2018, I suppose that was. And I respect her immensely, and we are very aligned in the way we practice our craft. Okay, so let's start with some facts about the book. It's going to be released on April 13th, 2021. If you are watching this at the time of upload, you can pre-order it. If you are watching it afterwards, then obviously you can just order it to your home. I requested a review copy from the publisher, Watkins Publishing, and they kindly sent it to me. So that is why I already have it. So as I said, the book was published by Watkins Publishing. The cover art is made by Jennifer Lloyd. She is an amazing artist. You should check her out, definitely. I'm going to link her Instagram below. And she also made the sigils inside, which, especially the first one, really, really spoke to me, and I'm a big fan of her art. So check her out as well. Now, to sum up Kelly-Ann, I'm just going to read this little paragraph at the back. It says, Kelly-Ann Maddox is a practicing rebel witch, award-winning tarot reader, and spiritual counselor, seeking to inspire others to find their sovereign spiritual path. Her work draws on her own experiences of recovery and rejuvenation through witchcraft. So that is a good attempt at summing her up, but she is such a huge, I think, personality and has so much depth that of course you can't really sum her up in 4 lines. My contact with her was mostly through her YouTube channel, but also as a spiritual counselor. I've had tarot readings with her, and as I said, I also did an interview with her that I will link below as well. So I've had many connection points with her, her Instagram as well, and you will notice that there's a lot more to her than 4 lines that sum up her life, obviously. Which is what makes this book so rich and so wonderful, because she has a very wide range of experience in witchcraft and has used it to increase her own mental health, to improve her own mental health, which is also one of the main reasons that many of us become witches or walk a path of witchcraft. So the goal of the book was to write a helpful and meaningful book that is not just relevant for beginner witches, but also for advanced witches. And of course, I'm going to also talk about whether she was successful in that and in what ways it is relevant for those of us who are a little more seasoned in the craft. So before I dive into my first thoughts about the book, let me just explain the structure to you quickly. There are 3 parts to it. The first part is called Let's Begin. It basically covers things like basic definitions, understanding what a rebel witch even is, understanding what witchcraft is about, and also understanding the place of tradition in her personal craft. with regards to the rebellious aspect and how the two interact essentially. Then as the second part, we have Make It Happen. This is the most practical part of the book. So she kind of maps out what you can include in your craft, in your spellcraft, in your rituals, how you do cleansings, how you do protection work, but all of it is, of course, done in a way where it explains that there's not just one way to do it, but it's your personal way. So I'm going to get more deeply into that later and the creativity of that. And then thirdly, as the last part of the book, you have Let's Keep Growing, which is basically about ethics. It's about how to do shadow work, how to troubleshoot if you are not sure where your craft is going or you feel it's not effective, and also how you can connect with others if you maybe want to connect with others or don't want to connect with others. So yes, that is the third part of the book. Now, let me talk about my first thoughts, including the design of the book, the writing style, and all of that. I'm just going to prop it here and hope that it's visible. My first thoughts were that it was basically what I expected it to be. It's a very personalized approach to witchcraft without her putting her own practice onto us or telling us how to do things, but rather facilitating that someone invents their own craft and finds what gives them power and what makes them feel empowered through witchcraft. Now, of course, also she talks about avoiding cultural appropriation. She doesn't mention things like spirit animals or smudging because these are either closed practices or they are just practiced by a minority and should not just be taken from it. I think it's relevant to mention because this is something that I've seen missing even in woke people's practices, even in people who engage in anti-racism work or people who know about cultural appropriation. They still sometimes have blind spots to things like smudging or things like that. So from the first few pages, it's already obvious that she is going to write this book her way, which makes it interesting, unlike many other beginner witchcraft books, which I feel are written for the reader very much. She obviously writes it for the reader as well, but she adds her personal touch to it, obviously, because it's called Rebel Witch, and she should add her personal touch to it. That's kind of the point. And I think that's what makes this book exciting, even for people who might be more advanced. But I will also talk about that more later, so let me not jump ahead too much. So she forgoes these things that sometimes are said have to be included in beginner witchcraft books. And what I like about the writing style is also that you can tell that she is a poet because she has a way of formulating things and finding words for things that are very evocative. One of my favorite things that it was written was that she said the book is a skeleton key opening many doors. And I really, really like that formulation. And the book is just full of those kinds of metaphors that really make you feel empowered as you are reading the book and kind of transport you into another world, even though it's not a fictional book in that sense, but still the way she uses words is just so metaphorical and evocative that it does create a world in your mind. And I think she's very good at conveying what her witchcraft world looks like in her mind to other people. We'll discuss more of this later as well. I have some more metaphors that I really enjoyed. And then one last thing I want to say about the design is that I really, really love the layout of the pages. I love the sizing of the letters. I love the font size. I love the distance between the lines. Everything has made this book incredibly readable, because I think we've all started reading a book and we're like, man, the letters are either tiny or the line spacing is off or the font really doesn't speak to us. And I think this is like perfectly done. I wish every book was done in these exact letters, in this font, in this sizing, but you can't have it all. Anyways, that's what I really like about the book as well. It makes it really easy and just a breeze to read. Now, before I talk about what surprised me or what might have been missing in the book, I want to talk a little bit about the strengths that I perceived this book to have, obviously. So I think it does a very good job of summing up the witchy experience and finding common denominators for almost everyone. Obviously, since she is mainly a solitary witch, this book might not speak so much to people who mostly do work in covens, but even if you work in covens, you usually do things on your own as well, and you kind of carve your own path. So I think even for those people, it would be interesting, though that is not my path, so I'm not the one to judge, I guess. But she often talks about the differences and at the same time the commonalities, and kind of leaves space for more. It's never like, okay, this is it, this is all encompassing, because she covers a lot of ground in the book, and a lot of it is not super duper detailed. It's more about kind of showing what's out there and making you realize what you maybe resonate and what you don't resonate with in the craft. So you can tell that it's targeted at everyone, not just beginners, because she asks questions like, how do you feel about the word witch at this point of your path? And I think many people, even after practicing for 20 years, might look back and think, I don't know how I feel about the word now versus how I felt at the beginning. For myself, I've been into this for a few years, and still, like, for the past few months, I haven't felt so connected to the word witch. And it's fine, you know, you just kind of have to go into that dialogue with yourself, and she facilitates that with her book. So it's not just relevant for the beginning of your path, but also for later stages. I think a second strength of this book is that it gets you really excited about witchcraft. If you feel like you have been in a little bit of a slump and you don't know where to go, which is kind of how I felt before I started this book, it's really good at hyping you up for it. At least for me, because of the evocative language, because of the broad approach and the expansive vision she creates of what witchcraft can be, it just gets you hyped up to try different things, to see different things, and even simple things. Like in the beginning, she asks, what benefits do you think witchcraft can bring into your life? And a question like that 100% gives you motivation, because it gives you a vision of what your craft could look like and what you think, how it will benefit you on your path in your life. And I think that is super important and super smart to do. It's a smart strategy to kind of show yourself the goodies and give yourself the vision of what your witchcraft can improve in your life. Though I do have to say that as an experienced witch, the first part of the book was not that relevant to me. It was just good to see that she paid her dues basically to cultural appropriation, kind of already mentioning ethics and stuff like that. So it was a nice read, but it wasn't what really made me feel fizzy and interested in everything. And I think I have to also say this, I think the first part is also great for people who have been kind of stuck in a mindset where they think they have to do things a certain way and kind of need a permission slip to do it differently. Because I'm quite naturally rebellious or stubborn or strong-headed with my practice, I think the first part was kind of like, oh yeah, this is a given to me. But I think for some people who are maybe even have been practicing for 10 years and are stuck in certain patterns or stuck in certain loops or something that they go through, I think this can be helpful. Or beginners who feel like, okay, I have to study all of this, remember all of this, go by the tradition, do nothing wrong. That's really who the first part is for. It kind of primes you for the second part, where you find what is relevant to you and what is meaningful to you in your practice. And the first part is kind of the groundwork of allowing yourself to do that and to also defy the guidance of others maybe and find your own path in all of this. So part 2 was where it got really interesting for me. She talks about the sabbats, for example, or how you could add certain days to the sabbats. You don't have to follow all 8 of them. You could also add birthdays of rock stars. You could add birthdays of people who were important to you. You could even, I was thinking, add something like book release dates or video game release dates that are important to you, you know? And I don't mean in the future, but like from the past. If you say, okay, The Last Unicorn, like for me, is very important to me, maybe I would look up when was it first released and then on that day honor that book. Or the same with video games. If you are really into Zelda or really into Metal Gear Solid, for example, then you could look up when were these games released and then celebrate the day kind of by playing the game or by engaging with the game. And this is the creative approach that I love about Kelly-Ann, that she brings up these ideas in people's minds. So she does a good job of showing the traditional aspects, but also adding something to it. Even as she goes through the sabbats, she doesn't just talk about, oh, you know, this is Ostara and it's about this, but she adds, I think it is Ostara, where she says it's associated with baby animals, so you might want to think about engaging with animal rights on that day. And I think that is such a good idea. And I'm honestly in awe of all the ideas she brings up for the sabbats, because it can make you more excited again for the sabbats if they've become a little bit stale, or even as a beginner you feel like they don't resonate. This is a really good book to make you feel more like they are your own and make you own them in whatever way feels best for you. So I will say that the book is more focused on the practical aspects and not so much about the beliefs. I think it does facilitate some kind of thought about what you believe in, but it's not a huge focus. If you compare it to something like, for example, Liz Worth's book on tarot that I also reviewed a while ago, she spends a lot of time talking about what beliefs there are about around tarot, how you find your own beliefs. And Kelly-Ann doesn't go into that much detail when it comes to witchcraft, but I think she's still at important points talks about this and makes you reflect on, you know, do you believe in God? Do you believe in multiple gods? Do you believe that demons exist? Do you want to work with demons? Do you believe that jinns exist? You know, all of these beings, or even what do you believe happens when you do a tarot reading? Is it spirit talking to you? Is it your own mind talking to you? All of these things kind of get mentioned. They don't go, she doesn't go into them in depth, but they still get mentioned, which I think is important as well. So if you're not so experienced, maybe you're thinking like, well, but I want guidance. I want someone to tell me what to do and not just be presented with like a myriad of options. And I understand that. And it's not like she doesn't give you examples, you know, she gives you incredibly creative examples. And there's one part I want to read to you. So she talks about servitors in this and talks about cleaning energy. So she says, call on your energy cleanup servitor. This is a being you'll activate when you need a good sweep and clear out your vibration. And here comes the creative part. Maybe this servitor looks like a Barbie doll in a French maid's outfit. Maybe it's a guard dog that chases the bad vibes down the street with a deep growl before cuddling up to you, obviously. Or maybe it's a lovely cloud of lemon-scented smoke that sucks up the badness and leaves you feeling fresh. So you can see here that she does have these amazing examples that kind of get your mind going. So if you really want guidance and if you just want to try things that she says here, you can, you know, you could say, okay, I will try all of these visualizations and see which one is best for me for cleanup or for an energy cleanup. So I think that's really interesting, because even though she doesn't tell you what to do, you could still use the book like that technically to try certain things she suggests and see if they work for you. So instead of kind of closing off your path and limiting it, she opens it up, and I really like that. I also like that her tone is not very confrontational. For me personally, I don't mind people who are a little more confrontational in their books, but with her, I feel like it's more subtle, and that's probably the better approach to make it palatable for people. So what I mean by this is, for example, when she talks about hexes and curses, she's really just asking you to reflect. She's not saying don't do it. She's not saying it's bad. She's just saying, hey, I think protecting myself is more cost effective than binding someone or hexing someone. So I would rather do a protection spell, but maybe you don't think about it. And it never feels patronizing. It feels like suggestions and guidance on your path. But there are no prohibitions or no-goes that she absolutely forbids. And one last thing I want to say that is really big strength is she always writes why people might want to do something. Because if you choose a practice such as an altar, like do you want an altar, do you not want an altar, then you have to think about why do I want it? And once you know the why, you will know why it resonates with you and why you are doing it. Because if you don't think about it, if you just see, okay, witches need an altar, I have to do this, 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 then obviously it's not going to be as fizzy as if you think about why am I engaging in this practice. And she always gives like little lists of why people might choose to do certain things. And I really like that because it helps your self-reflection and it shows you why other witches might do something. And it might either give you clarity on why you are not doing it or why you do want to do it. And I really like that approach. Now, things that surprised me a little bit. First of all, there isn't as much tarot as I was expecting because, you know, she is a tarot reader. So I was expecting that with tarot, she would go into a little more depth. But at the same time, I know that she is listing so many divination methods that she can't really go in depth on each single one of them. And she does have a little paragraph about tarot magic. You know, it's not a lengthy explanation of this is what the suits mean, this is what the minor arcana means, this is what the major arcana means. You have to go to other books for that. So just because she's a tarot reader, don't expect this to be very tarot focused. She does mention, of course, how you can use tarot card and magic, how tarot can represent you, or a tarot card can represent a person you want to let go of, or it can represent a future you that you want to achieve when you do a ritual, for example, and how you can use tarot cards in that context. That is in there, but there's not a huge explanation about what tarot is about, what the system works like, what is the history, or anything like that. So don't expect that. I was also surprised that chaos magic didn't get so much of a focus, or at least like an explanation of why she does it. But I think the reason is that she stayed away from, you know, giving these typical lists that I'm not a big fan of, like types of witches. And then you have green witch, kitchen witch, chaos witch, ancestral witch, and hedge witch. And, you know, you just get all the, like, a big list of who you can slot yourself into and what label you want to accept. She doesn't do that for obvious reasons because labeling yourself is not really that helpful. I agree with that. So I think that's why chaos magic doesn't get mentioned so much. But, you know, I thought that maybe with the whole rebel archetype and the paradigm shifts that chaos magic represents in society as well as within yourself, it might be something that she touches on, but it's not really mentioned in depth. There is something in the bibliography where she recommends books about it though, so if you do want to go more in depth with it, there are suggestions there. So now let's talk about what I'm going to use this book for. Will I open it ever again, or am I just going to keep it closed forever now? Obviously not. I'm going to use it again. So when I'm out of ideas for spells and rituals, especially this book is going to be helpful because it's so chock full of cool ideas of what you can do spells and rituals about. So that's really amazing. And even if you just do a random number generator and pick one of the ritual ideas through that, I think that can be amazing as well. And then think about, why do I need this ritual right now? How can I make it relevant to me? That's probably going to be something I do with it. I'm 100% going to be doing bibliomancy with it if I feel like I need advice from spirit, or I just feel like I want some inspiration. I'm going to just open a random page and read it. And the thing is, like, I got so many ideas for spells and rituals from this book, and whoever knows me knows that I don't do many spells and rituals. I mostly figure out everything in the physical realm and don't do many spells or rituals to kind of help me or support me with that. But I think maybe I should start again. So that's really exciting that the book brought this up in me. And, you know, even doing small spells for health or for protection regularly, it can add meaning and can add fizziness to your life. So that got me excited as well. So yes, I think you can refer back to this book easily all the time if you need inspiration. That is 100% one of the biggest strengths. Okay, so let me wrap this up by talking about who this book is for and who I think can really benefit from it. So if you're tired of reading very limited or limiting approaches, wow, I felt like Oprah there. If you got that reference, then. So if you're tired of limiting or limited approaches to witchcraft, or what kind of witch you are or what you should be doing, and you really want your witchcraft to be more personal and more speaking to you and speaking for you, then this book is definitely for you. That's literally the purpose of it. Now, obviously, the reason why personalized witchcraft is helpful is because it makes you feel more powerful than if you just follow A, B, C, D, E steps about something. Also, if you feel like over the years there have built up quite a lot of limitations, or you've kind of boxed yourself in as a witch, I think this book can help you get out of that. So for example, I know that many people know, like, okay, I'm not good at herbs. I'm great at magic. I'm great at making potions maybe, but when it comes to knowing what herbs do, or when it comes to astrology, I have a real weakness. I know especially astrology, a lot of people are scared of for some reason. And if you feel like you have these limitations, like, oh, I couldn't be good at that, I think this book can kind of help you work through that and explore things that really aren't up your lane usually, but maybe they could be powerful for you. So I think that's something that the book can do if you are looking for that. If you're looking for like a very pagan approach, a very natural approach that is kind of nature related or has to do with ancestors a lot or folklore, then it's not going to be the book for you. Because it's not very pagan centric, it's not very focused on like Celtic culture, Nordic mythology, or things like that. You know, it's a lot more free than that and a lot more open. So it doesn't really box itself into one of these pantheons or one religion or one path or nature as the main focus. It's much more about the practice than the belief system. As I said, also ancestral stuff, ancestral work doesn't get mentioned a lot because Kelly-Ann doesn't do it a lot herself, so she doesn't put a big focus on that and doesn't really talk about it, which is fine. You know, whoever resonates with it will probably find it, and whoever doesn't, doesn't. And also one thing, if you're looking for correspondence tables, this book is also not for you. Ideally, I think, and this is something I really want to say that this book does very, very well. Ideally, you empower people and teach people how to, as the book says, carve their own path rather than telling them what to do. And this is an amazing thing that this book does, because it doesn't give you rules, it gives you suggestions, it gives you inspirations. It doesn't say like, oh, this weekday is associated with this element and this gem is associated with this goddess or something like this. Correspondences, no, none of that. It can be helpful, and I understand that correspondence tables are exciting for beginners sometimes, but what the purpose of this book is to really empower you to do that research yourself and to find your own path in all of it. And that is why I would say it has definitely reached its goal, because the purpose was not to give you the huge basic understanding of what witchcraft is or was. It is to give you the possibilities, to give you all of the roads that you can take, to show you the expanse of territory, the possibilities of witchcraft, and not to give you a set of expectations and a set of traditions that you have to fulfill. So as you can tell, I wholeheartedly recommend the book. I told you who it is for, who it is maybe not for so much, what you can expect of it. Let me know if you're interested in reading the book. I pre-ordered it in like June, and now I had the idea to request a review copy. That was very silly of me. But it came at a perfect time. It came at a good time for me, and I'm definitely going to take more time to read it again now and really work through all of the tasks, because now I rushed it a little bit because I wanted to give you guys a review, obviously, and talk about the book. So maybe later on I will also talk more in depth about how the book has helped me more specifically. But I can already tell that it's giving me many ideas and is really inspiring for me as a more seasoned witch. I'm kind of in the mid-level, I would say, advanced, not a beginner, but also not like super, how do you say that? I don't know, an elder or something. Let me know if you're going to purchase this book. Let me know what you thought of it once you've read it. I really look forward to hearing your thoughts. And I'm going to link more of my book reviews down there. I'm going to link the interview with Kelly-Ann. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe if you feel like it, and see you soon.